When Waterbury was hit by Tropical Storm Irene, the response in the first few days was really the local response. And at the beginning of a disaster and responding to disaster, there are no other people here. So it's really the community responding.
There are a lot of determined people in Waterbury, and so they don't let one roadblock kind of stop them. They say, okay, here's this roadblock. Either how are we going to get over it, or are we going to make a left turn, are we going to make a right turn? You know, what are we going to do? But we're not just going to stop, because our community needs to recover from this.
Buildings were got a lot of damage just from the rising and lowering of the water, and I never knew that a building could be so damaged by being filled with water. But houses were filled with silt and mud and sludge. And then after the water disappeared on about day 3 or 4, they were filled with mold.
So the water came up through this drain and flooded this bottom floor about 1.5 inches or so. And they got to it. You know Father Jerry, he's a man of action. He gets stuff done. So he and 3 or 4 other people actually just got to it right away.
The building behind us was owned by the Alchemists. They brewed Heady Topper in the basement. Their brewery was flooded. It's really derelict. It was severely damaged in Tropical Storm Irene, a large area. The foundation caved in. We thought it was a lost cause. It shows the flood of Irene on the corner of the building. And then up above it, it shows the flood level with the flood of 1927. And this really shows that we had a very serious flood. The Irene was about at my head level.
So most people whose houses were flooded had to remove basically the entire insides of the first floor. And of the village here in Waterbury, which has about 600 structures, about 200 were flood damaged.
I mean, I think it's still, every time it rains really hard here, people are checking, you know, the river, and they check the web pages that, you know, shows the height of the Winooski River and stuff like that. You know, we have the gauge here in town, so people know where to go to look to see what stage we're at. When we get hard rains that are lasting for a period of time, everybody is checking it. So it's just one of the things that we do now.
This is a map of the town and village of Waterbury, and it looks at the different watersheds and the flood vulnerability, especially the more frequent storms. So this is showing the village of Waterbury in this area. This is the Thatcher Brook here. This is Little River and the Waterbury Reservoir. So the blue areas are areas of flood inundation, and then the dots on the map are particular properties that would be vulnerable in a 10 and a 50-year flood.
If you had issues around food security, and you had issues around housing security before the flood, it was just exacerbated by the flood. And so helping those folks required a multifaceted approach.
We had a lot of these alliances and sort of plans that weren't complete, but some beginning plans of where we wanted to go as a community. So when Tropical Storm Irene came, we were able to really coalesce and build upon those alliances and move forward to make a lot of improvements. And I think that's why Waterbury had such a successful recovery.
You know, we partnered with a lot of different organizations to try to bring in the resources that we need, that we knew that we couldn't afford to pay for, because the money that we raised needed to go back into the homes.
So starting, you know, after a week or two, we started getting a lot more help from, particularly from FEMA, from the federal government, from groups nationwide, volunteer groups nationwide, and then also state response.
We worked hard during that period of time to get people back on their feet. We were here sometimes 7 days a week, depending upon what volunteer groups that we had coming in. It's one of those experiences that bond people. You don't ask to go through it, nobody wants to, but you know, you realize the positive things that come out of it once you have gone through it.
So Waterbury has made a great recovery from Tropical Storm Irene. I think we were really lucky. Disasters are horrible events, but they also are an opportunity for change, and Waterbury was able to take full advantage of that opportunity.
shows you what a determined group of people, some good partners at the state and federal level and local level can do for a community.
Like many historic communities in Vermont, Waterbury is located right next to a river, so figuring out how to give the river room to move around while still preserving and promoting our downtown is always going to be a challenge for us.
We're not going to be washed out of existence in Waterbury, you know, we're going to be stronger, and we kept saying that. I don't know how many of us really believed it at the time, but now we come through it and we can say, yeah, it's true. If you have enough people who have the human spirit to rebound, they can help lift other people up who don't have that or don't feel like they have it, help them find it. And when you have enough of those people together, then you have a town.
Resilience means that people are flexible enough to withstand a disaster and to come back stronger than before.
The spirit of those willing to help, the spirit of those people who you know, don't feel like they have that resilience, but you help them find it, and then all of those people together, coming together as a community to lift your whole community up.
Waterbury is very resilient.
Community Resilience Organizations has worked alongside our floodplain management working group. So we have a group that's representative of town staff, state, regional staff, and we work together to promote a variety of kinds of projects to mitigate future disasters, hazard mitigation plan, working on projects like we looked at with the mapping, trying to figure out where we're vulnerable, where we need to focus our efforts moving forward. So we really see the CROW as being integrated with our other committee structures to help us to promote resiliency and be more resilient as we move into the future.
It's still an issue, obviously, even if people have, you know, feel like they have recovered, it's always in the back of their heads.
We're just getting finished with a World Cafe process as the final action for Hartford Resilience Week 2017, and we really ended on a very strong note. And I've got to say, this is the most, you know, not just the most substantive dialogue on the subject of resilience, but this might be the most substantive community dialogue that I've been involved with in the town of Hartford so far, and it's pretty exciting watching the committee. This now is its second year of activity and the second year of the Community Resilience Week, and I just feel like it's making a huge contribution to resilience in our towns. Brought up this amazing conversation, and like substantive, real initiatives and activities are coming out of it.
It's important to be prepared that anything can happen. In the context of our program here in Hartford, it means people working together, getting to know your neighbors so you can help each other during an emergency. It means being prepared and creative in how we can grow as much of our own food in this local area. I'm kind of excited about that possibility. We're doing an assessment right now. I think people aren't aware of what the farms are here in town and what's the potential for growing our own food.
You need to have the basics for a living. And in a really bad disaster or series of disasters, we would be in a tough situation right now. So we need to build up some of our abilities to be resilient.
As the chair of the Conservation Commission, and having experienced and helped people clean up after Tropical Storm Irene, it really seemed that trying to build some resilience into the community would be a good thing to do. And it seemed really important to me to be able to bring natural resources, kind of an influence, to the CROW committee. So that's what, I hope that's what I've been bringing.
We need to know each other better, all of us, and get along and do things together so that we are able to lean on each other a little bit more probably when bad things happen.
And we're hoping that we're going to get to some action items that the town is going to be willing to commit to, or individuals in town be willing to commit to boost our resilience. In a lot of cases, I think it's going to be how do we develop neighborhoods and make them sort of more friendly, make sure that everybody gets to know their neighbor.
I feel as though we have some very hard times coming, and I feel as though a community that is in touch with each other and secure within each other can withstand the kinds of weather things and economic things and problems that we have, that we're looking at these days.
And I thought this is an opportunity to not just protest against something, but to try to create an awareness in the community of what we can do, working together to make this a better place.
I'm very pleased that the Select Board of Hartford chose to become one of the towns that is a crow.
And I've been doing volunteer work all my life, and I just felt like, what can I do to help folks?
That they chose to get regular citizens like me to appoint them to this crow organization. I think it shows a real seriousness on the part of the whole town government, that they see that this is something that's important to Hartford, and that they're putting their, their whatever power, resources, etc., behind it. I think it's a great credit to Hartford.
Resiliency means people working together, developing how we can be most helpful, the Resilience Committee, working with all the other departments in town, making more awareness with neighbors, making it be fun to come together and meaningful, and finding how we can reach the most people. Last year and this year, I think we've learned some things. I think there's some very knowledgeable people in all sorts of skills, and to find out who those people are in town and how they can teach other folks, to me that's what resilience is.
I hope that's got a nice little marker on her head. So, Lot's got her sheep. How long is her head walking? Nice when she's walking. It's a lot easier to see a walking sheep than running sheep. Ooh, that last stage turned into a zag. And then they come down to the path where they have to turn clockwise. Are not impressed. They're wishing they were back at home. They enjoy the company, but wish they were chewing grass instead. So now they're around the pan and on to that chute.